Hey y'all, it's Donna, and yesterday after trying high meat for the first time and feeling this warmth over me and this emotional connection or urge to hug on my baby, which is pretty typical for me anyway, but it felt more connected to the high meat that I had just eaten. That got me thinking about there possibly being a disconnection. There could be an explanation biologically as to why vegans choose the route they do, and maybe they're lacking something in their diet and lacking the ability to produce certain hormones in a way that they need to connect with humanity. And so a lot of people think they just love the animals more than they love humans, but I don't think that's exactly it. I think they're really searching for love. They're searching for a connection that they're missing. And so it's obviously easier to love animals from afar than it is to have a connection with human beings, because it's a different kind of love, whereas with humans you want to hug and hold them. And with anyone who's had a child, they would know that the love is completely different than you can have with any other person. So this connection they have with animals is a completely different type of connection. And you'll see the more extreme cases, they want sterilization, they call it selfish for people to have babies, things like that. And so I think there's a real disconnection with humanity, and I want to break it down as best I can, and I will explain how this has happened through nutrient deficiency. So I'm going to be talking about oxytocin, even though there are so many other hormones and that it works synergistically, but that would take all day. So I want to talk about oxytocin because most people think of it as the love hormone or the hormone during labor and breastfeeding, when in actuality it has a lot more function. It has a lot to do with empathy and morality in our day-to-day lives, and it's also been associated in a lot of neurological disorders from Asperger's to schizophrenia. So I'm proposing that adults, humans who are lacking this very important hormone or lacking a proper production of it, or seeking it out as a human instinct, they are seeking it out with everything within them. And as I will show you here, it even has a lot to do with eating disorders and being overweight or too far underweight with anorexia, as this paper shows. So the question would then become, what nutrients are necessary to cause proper production of oxytocin, and what happens in adults or even children when they do not get these nutrients and they cannot produce oxytocin optimally.
So oxytocin plays a significant role because it helps to activate various parts of the brain that are involved in the manifestation of those abilities. Now, there's a link between cholesterol and oxytocin. And if you understand that there is actually a number of individuals, particularly kids on the spectrum, who actually have very low cholesterol, sometimes less than 100. The lowest I've seen in my practice was around 65, which is extremely low, and understanding the link between the two. And it's important to understand that cholesterol and oxytocin are linked because cholesterol is an activating chemical for the oxytocin receptors in the brain. So if your child doesn't have enough cholesterol, their own brain's production of oxytocin is not going to work as well if they don't have enough cholesterol activating those receptors. And those receptors are these lock and key mechanisms in the brain. The brain is activated and nerve impulses are generated through the brain by receptor interaction with various neurochemicals. And so when a chemical attaches to a receptor, it's a lock and key mechanism, and you have to have the right lock to open the door. And once that door is open, you can get, a flood of chemical information that is transported throughout the brain. And so oxytocin actually needs an adequate amount of cholesterol activating the oxytocin receptor in order to work appropriately. So again, oxytocin is very important with respects to facial recognition, voice cue recognition. It helps with anxiety and just that social bonding. And cholesterol is very important. One of its functions is to help with that oxytocin.
And so being as cholesterol will come from animal sources, I don't think it would be necessary for me to explain or go into detail as to why vegans would not be getting enough cholesterol and would become cholesterol deficient.
I want to know if there was a moral molecule. After 10 years of experiments, I found it. Oh, would you like to see it? I brought some with me. This little syringe contains the moral molecule. It's called oxytocin. So oxytocin is a simple and ancient molecule found only in mammals. In rodents, it was known to make mothers care for their offspring, and in some creatures, allowed for toleration of burrow mates. But in humans, it was only known to facilitate birth and breastfeeding in women, and is released by both sexes during sex. So I had this idea that oxytocin might be the moral molecule. We found, testing thousands of individuals, that 5% of the population don't release oxytocin on stimulus. So if you trust them, their brains don't release oxytocin. If there's money on the table, they keep it all. So there's a technical word for these people in my lab. We call them bastards. These are not people you want to have a beer with. They have many of the attributes of psychopaths. Okay? Now, there are other ways this system can be inhibited. One is through improper nurturing. So we've studied sexually abused women, and about half of those don't release oxytocin on stimulus. Okay? You need enough nurturing for this system to develop properly. Also, high stress inhibits oxytocin. So we all know this. When we're really stressed out, we're not acting our best. There's another way oxytocin is inhibited, which is interesting, through the action of testosterone.
Yeah, what happened was two breeders brought their children to a vegan restaurant with them. Their 1-year-old kid was screaming at the top of his lungs.
All they could say was like, it's a 1-year-old child. What do you expect? When I was 1 year old, I'm sorry, everyone was a child. I never tried screaming like that, and if I did, my parents kept me in fucking check. Yeah, so they just don't know how to control their kids, but brings us to the topic of this video. Being married without children. How are you enjoying it so far? Well, I hate children, so what do you think? Yeah. Well, I hate children, so what do you think? Yeah, it's pretty great. So
what I propose is that people have a test. They need a license, a permit before they procreate, before they have children. They need to pass a test. And that men get vasectomies. All men have to get vasectomies. But I believe there is another procedure that may be out called Esure, which you might want to look into. But anyway, so men get vasectomies, and then their sperm is actually taken away from them. Yes, that's right. And if they pass that test, then they're allowed to have their sperm and procreate.
A lot of talk in the high-carb vegan community about vasectomies. A lot of guys are getting the snip.
So vasectomy, absolute best way. I got a vasectomy.
You get a vasectomy, guys.
Think of the big snip.
And I've got a lot of guy friends who've had vasectomies. A lot of guy friends.
Vasectomies, maybe I should do that. Maybe I should put the pressure on myself as a man to man the fuck up.
Am I gonna get a vasectomy? I don't know if I'm gonna get a vasectomy. Some days I think I am, some days I think I'm not. If I hang around during rider long enough, maybe I will.
Fucking easy operation. It's easy as fuck. It's cheap.
We have ripped a hole in your scrotum and we've pulled the tube out and we've already cauterized down the end.
What I thought I'd discuss is vasectomies and whether I should have one.
A vasectomy operation because I decided
I definitely didn't want to have kids.
Hi, it's Tony here from The Wholesome You. So this is just a quick update on regards to Nick and his vasectomy. He's had it done, haven't you, Nick?
Done.
Look, limp dick.
Yeah, I'd say the operation was successful, and I'm waiting now until I have about 20 ejaculations before I go for a test to find out if I'm finally sterile.
So I got my vasectomy, I think I was like 27 years old when I got it, so I'm almost 32 now.
Vasectomy, guys, because you know why? You don't have the balls at Vegan Gains.
Created a very unnatural world, so following our natural instincts does not always match up or marry up with the artificial, crazy world that we've created. Yes, ideally, in a perfect ideal world, Luca and I would have very much enjoyed having our own children and raising them, but it's just not a scenario that we see as feasible in the world that we have collectively.
So we also know that during postpartum depression that oxytocin levels are very low, and this results in lower milk production, you know, things like depression, and it can be extremely serious when women, you know, after they give birth and while they're struggling with this, they can sometimes kill themselves and their children. It's a really, really severe and hard thing for them to go through. So if you think about it, this isn't only something that happens during pregnancy or after that oxytocin becomes so vital and important. It's before we have children. It drives us to want to have children.
Very quickly, within a few weeks of being on a carnivore diet, for the first time in my life, I'm 31, I wanted children. Just think about that. Suddenly, I wanted children. And now think about all the vegans who are talking of depopulation and of getting the snip, sterilizing themselves. Think about that. Who's more aligned with nature? And so because I was vegetarian from the age of 11, and my mother was already fairly anemic and weak, giving birth to me, I never had the natural strength, and so I had an intelligence, an inbuilt intelligence telling me, nah, I don't want children. But that was part of being depressed, being a recluse, you know, and you just build endless layers of spiritual and new age bullshit to justify this starvation diet that's kind to the animals. Bullshit. I call bullshit. So yes, I want children for the first time in my life. Just in time that I quit veganism. I'm 31, it's still time to have children. But imagine these poor souls that are now 40, 50, or that will be, and believe that they genuinely don't want children, and even make up moralistic nonsense to justify that.